What is a Yirei Shomayim? How do you define Yirei Shomayim? Sometimes I have people, they come into the office and they look at me in the eyes and they say, "Are you a Yirei Shomayim?" And I look at them and I smile because, like I'll explain soon, Yirei Shomayim is something which is very difficult to, put your finger on and say, oh, that makes you a Yirei Shomayim. And especially to judge your own level of Yirei Shomayim. I mean, how do you judge your own level of Yirei Shomayim? Everybody's biased. So I always just, I shrug my shoulders and I laugh and I say, well, Yirei Shomayim, I'm working on it. I'm doing my best. I can't, I like to joke. One thing's for sure, I'm an unav. I'm a humble person. That's for sure. In most cases, they smile and they understand the point, and we go further with the buying the tefillin or the mezuzos. But it is a good question. What is a Yirei Shomayim? I mean, how do you define Yirei Shomayim? So there's a story that I was told by an older Sofer here in Muncie who heard from the Sofer who taught him Sofer. So this story probably goes back, I don't know, maybe 50, 70 years, let's say. They give you his Sofer gave him a scenario. He said, imagine you have two Sofrim writing a Parsha. Now one Sofer he's older, he has a long white beard, and he's been writing for many, many years, and he is known for his level of saintliness and holiness, and everybody just, that Sofer is he's a real holy person. But his writing is not such a beautiful writing. It lacks a little bit in the writing, but he's known for Yirei Shomayim. He's super holy. And then you have another Sofer, let's say a younger Sofer. His beard is not as white, it's not as long. He knows the halachos, he writes well, and his ksav is a nicer writing. Both of these Parshios are selling for the same price. Which one do you take? So the average person, I've presented this scenario to people on many occasions, and they almost always tell me, they say, well, I would go with the Sofer who has the long white beard and is super holy. And the answer is, that's the incorrect answer. The answer is, you're supposed to go with the nicer writing, the writing that's more accurate and follows the halacha more closely. Why is that? Because how can you judge another person's level of Yirei Shomayim? Are you judging them externally based on how long their beard is? When I provided you with this scenario of one Sofer with a big white beard and one Sofer with a short brown beard, maybe a couple of white hairs. No, I'm not talking about me. We never said that he wasn't Shomer Torah mitzvahs. We never said that he wasn't doing everything that he was supposed to be doing. We just said he didn't have a long white beard. You can't be the judge on what's going on inside somebody's head, what's going on behind closed doors. So how do you judge? So what do you do? So you take the nicer writing. That's what we could judge. We could judge the nicer writing. So when we talk about Yirei Shomayim, there's really only a couple things that we could, base our decision on. Is this Sofer a Yirei Shomayim? And it's three things that I basically boil it down to. One, the Sofer has to be certified. He has to have Kabbalah. The Kabbalah assures you that he has certification, that he learned all of the laws, the thousands of laws, the Svarim, the halachos, on how the tefillin have to be written, and everything that goes into the assembly and properly making the tefillin. How do we know they know the laws? By having the Kabbalah, that they were tested, they were vetted, and we know that they know, at least we know that they know what they're supposed to be doing. How do we know that they are actually doing what they're doing? So that's when the second thing comes into play. You have to make sure that the Sofer that you're buying the tefillin from, or the Sofer that's assembling the tefillin for you, and you're trusting him that he knows the Sofer that he's buying the tefillin, the Parshios from, that he knows him well enough, and he knows his motivation, and he knows what is he involved in. Is his attitude, oh, I'm writing this for the money, or is his attitude, I'm writing this because I want to bring down Hashem's brachos into the world through my tefillin, through my writing, and he puts his heart and soul into the writing. What's his attitude? What's his intentions? How well do you know the Sofer? If his attitudes and his intentions are correct, and that's lined up with the fact that he knows all of the halachos and all the laws, then you can be that much more sure that the parshas were written according to halacha, that they're proper, that they're right, that they're kosher. The third thing you can look at is the actual writing itself. You could have somebody who writes a beautiful writing and not have the correct intentions, or if they don't know the laws, they could be writing beautifully and still be making mistakes and correcting things that they don't know that they're allowed to correct. But one thing's for sure, if somebody is writing sloppy, if somebody's writing a writing, like I'll show you in a couple minutes, which is written improper, not kosher, you can be sure that the other two aspects, that they know the halahs, the certification, the Kabbalah, and that their intentions are in the right place, you can be sure that they're missing that. It reminds me of a story I heard of from a Sofer here in Muncie. He says that when he was learning Safras, when he was younger in Yerushalayim, in Jerusalem, he was by the Kotel. He walked into a Judaica store or a gift shop somewhere near the Kotel, and he was learning to become a Sofer himself, and he saw that they had mezuzah scrolls on display over there, and he looked at the mezuzahs in the display case, and he was looking at the mezuzahs, comparing from what he knows from writing it to what he sees, and he saw that the mezuzah, the Sofer, when it came to the final mem, which is a very boxy letter, it's like a square, the Sofer who wrote these scrolls wrote the bottom very round, so they actually looked like a samach. They were more rounded at the bottom as opposed to square. And he goes to the store clerk and he says, these mezuzahs are not kosher. They're supposed to be a final mem, which is a square at the bottom, flat, and the bottoms are very round. You can't be selling this. The store clerk says to him, actually, the Sofer who writes these, he's actually coming by today to bring us some more mezuzot. He'll be coming in a couple minutes. Why don't you wait? When he comes, you could talk to him. The Sofer comes in. He explains to him what his concern is with the mezuzot that he's writing. The Sofer looks at him and he says, "What do you mean? Every single morning I daven by the kotel. Every single day I daven by the kotel. How can you say that what I'm writing, my mezuzot, are not kosher?" And this is what I'm trying to bring out. Part of Yirei Shomayim is writing proper. You can't say that I fear heaven and I'm doing what Hashem wants if you're not writing the Parshios according to the way Hashem wants that the Parshios, the letters, need to be written. Okay, so we have to have all these three things in order to be sure that the Sofer is how we can define that a Sofer is Yirei Shomayim. 1, he knows the halachos. 2, his intentions, his kavanah, he lives his life in a style that follows in the ways of Hashem. And 3, that his writing is according to halacha. Missing any one of those things is a recipe for disaster. And that would, as best as we can define Yirei Shomayim, because like I said, we can't know what's going on in a Sofer's head. We don't know what's going on behind closed doors. And we can't attach a camera to the back of the Sofer to follow him every step that he goes. What we can judge is what we can see. And that's what we have to go by.